Richard D. James, better known as Bradley Strider, better known as Caustic Window, better known as Howard, better known as Aphex Twin's debut LP, Selected Ambient Works 8592, is an instant electronic classic. It's a pillar of inspiration for countless artists and a favorite of many, including me. I often like to associate different albums and songs with different times of the day and parts of the year, and to me, Saw 8592 is an early spring morning. That sound propagates immediately with the first track, Stall, which is apparently supposed to be pronounced Crystal, but I refuse to. The 9-minute second track, The, is by far my favorite track on the entire album, and it kind of lightly reminds me of the Underground song from Super Mario 64. The album title is actually a lie, because all the tracks other than I are not even ambient. They're maybe ambient techno, but as for why he specified ambient in the title, I have no idea. Tracks like The, We Are the Music Makers, or Actium fit the label of ambient techno, but then other tracks on the album like Green Calx or Headphelum are just, they stray way further. They're way different. They're closer to classic 90s techno or maybe like proto-IDM, but either way, they're not ambient. Aegis Paulus, another track I'm not sure if I'm saying correctly, is by far the grooviest track on the album, with We Are the Music Makers following second. You know, it's got that part that goes... Whereas We Are the Music Makers has that jazzy bass line and synth to keep it fresh for 7.5 minutes, as well as Gene Wilder to tell you what's up.
We are the music makers, and we are the dreamers of dreams.
I.e., shut up.
After the 1-minute ambient interlude I, we get Green Calx, which as I said before is neither ambient nor ambient techno, but it is still a great track. In fact, it's my second favorite Calx. This album is really just a big mixed bag of different genres and styles, but they all do inevitably end up centering in on that ambient techno label. You can hear the seeds for like 10 different genres on this record that would go on to be expanded by him and many others afterwards. The mixed bag feeling of this album is really enhanced by the title, Selected Ambient Works. It's really more of a compilation of his best tracks that he had at the time, which is a concept for a first album not too dissimilar to Boards of Canada's Music Has the Rights to Children or Autechre's Incunabula. Even though I adore this album, the tracks tend to get a little bit less memorable as the LP goes on. The confusingly similar titles mixed with how they tend to stray further away from the lighter ambient techno label makes for a more hectic experience. I start to lose track of which song is which until they start playing and I can remember what's in them. Maybe I just haven't listened to this record enough, but I more feel that he front-loaded this album with his better tracks, and then just as the album goes on, the tracks just get slightly less good. Except for Actium, the closing track, which is my third favorite on the album. Actium returns to a more jazzy progression and is the third longest track on the album, with a runtime of 7.5 minutes. When I first heard the song, the bass line seemed to suggest that the song was going to have a big greasy drop and go crazy like a song off Classics, but alas, that did not happen. And in the end, I'm glad it didn't, because Actium is chill as fuck. It's a brilliant way to reset the palette and bring us back to where we started while also staying fairly fresh. Actium has very little to play with, and it still experiments with different combinations of elements. The only unfortunate thing is that it really only works at the end of Saw. I mean, sure, I've heard it outside of the album plenty of times, but it's best after the entirety of Saw. Sometimes you can tell if a song is meant to be the opener or a closer of an album, and Actium fits that bill. It's not necessarily a detriment, it's just kind of a note. In the end, Selected Ambient Works 8592 is a wonderfully simple, complex album that reminds me of an early spring morning, until it doesn't. And then it does again. It has a slightly dated 90s sound to it, but that's okay because it made that 90s sound. I don't talk about albums that I don't like, and so of course I recommend you listen to it, even if you've already heard it. It's been too long since you've last heard it. Go and listen to it right now.
I'm trying out a shorter style of video. Let me know if you like it.